New background, how fancy. My name is Kat, this is KittyCatThang, and today I am stuck inside, like most everybody else is. So I decided to give some recommendations on what I've been doing while I have been inside, which is reading. Lots and lots of reading, unsurprisingly. Today's video is going to be focused on mysteries, and then I thought I would do a couple of other categories later, like kids' books, or fantasy, or classics, or something like that. But today I decided to start with the mysteries that I like. So here we go. By the way, I haven't scripted out this video or anything. I have no idea what I'm about to say, so be ready for some intense cutting between book recommendations, cause oh boy, I don't know what I'm doing. So the first book that I'm going to recommend today is The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, which is one of Agatha Christie's books. It's not actually the first Agatha Christie I read. It took me a long time to get to The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, but it's one of the ones that is a lot of people's favorites, and for very good reason. It's a very well-constructed book. It's got an excellent plot, an excellent protagonist, a lot of twists and turns that you don't quite expect in a book like this. So to give a brief plot summary, I'm just going to read the back of the book, because it's, to be perfectly fair, it's been a while since I actually read this one, but I do remember it being fantastic. So, plot summary. Roger Ackroyd knew too much. He knew that the woman he loved had poisoned her brutal first husband. He suspected, also, that someone had been blackmailing her. Then, tragically, came the news that she had taken her own life with a drug overdose. But the Evening Post brought Roger one last fatal scrap of information. Unfortunately, before he could finish reading the letter, he was stabbed to death. This is one of Poirot's stories, and Poirot is one of my favorite characters in all of fiction. He's a very classic detective, meaning that because Agatha Christie was the mother of the genre, he became the stereotype for a lot of really big detective stories. Now, I don't say Agatha Christie was the mother of the genre just because, oh, she was the first to write. She wasn't. Definitely there were people who were writing detective stories long before she was, but she is the one that coined the classic formulaic mystery that we're used to. So I say she is the mother of the genre in that she is the mother of formulaic detective fiction. And like I was saying, Poirot is an excellent character. He's a lot of fun to look into, he's got a lot of interesting little quirks. He's very much like a Sherlock Holmes for the people that don't like Sherlock Holmes, in a way, in that he's very sweet and goofy and particular about what he likes and doesn't like. And he's got an excellent way of describing things when he figures it all out. So yeah, first recommendation of the day, Murder of Roger Ackroyd. The next one I'm going to recommend is another Agatha Christie. Again, this is a mysteries video, and I love classic mysteries, so I love Agatha Christie. The next one I'm recommending of hers is And Then There Were None, which was originally published under a different title, but let's not get into that. And Then There Were None is one of my favorite stories that I actually read really late in reading Agatha Christie stories. I still haven't read most of her works, but when I started getting into reading a lot of her stuff at once, it was one of the last ones I picked up before I moved on to a different trend of reading. And Then There Were None is really fun, and I was in a version of it that was adapted into a play called Murder by the Book when I was 15. And so I knew some of the plot, but I didn't know the exact plot. And it's just fun. For the way that it's structured, more than anything else, it's really, really fun because you get a really cool bad guy in this one. So, plot summary time. 10 strangers are lured to an isolated island mansion off the Devon coast by a mysterious U.N. Owen. 9. At dinner, a recorded message accuses each of them in turn of having a guilty secret, and by the end of the night, one of the guests is dead. 8. Stranded by a violent storm and haunted by a nursery rhyme counting down one by one, as one by one they begin to die. 7. Which among them is the killer? And will any of them survive? I love And Then There Were None for the sheer suspense of it all. Like, it tells you right on the tin exactly what's going on, like you're counting down from 10. But it's so fun, because you don't know who's next, you don't know why, you don't know what's going on for the longest time, and then in the very last couple of pages of the book it sums it all up perfectly. I love that kind of story. Again, this is Agatha Christie, so it's very formulaic, and you kind of can tell what's coming, but the thing I love about her is that she knows how to take the formula she created and turn it on its head so you have no idea what you're looking at. She's very good at including red herrings, which is all I'm gonna say about this one, because red herrings play a pretty big role in what's going on. So yeah, and then there were none. Very, very fun book. So now we're gonna get into one that kind of qualifies as a mystery, but mostly is like an adventure story for kids. The next book I'm recommending is The Westing Game by Ellen Raskin. I always feel like I'm saying that wrong. I love The Westing Game. I read it for the first time when I was in, I want to say like 3rd or 4th grade. And it's just one of those stories that kind of sticks with you because sometimes they teach it in school, and that's what my school did. We had it as a summer reading one year. And I think that's a really cool thing to do because it is a book that you wouldn't expect to be on a summer reading list. It's quirky and strange and full of convoluted twists and turns, and honestly it's very hard to understand as a kid. There's a lot of stuff in it that kind of goes over your head until you read it again as a grown-up and you're like, oh wait. So The Westing Game was one of my favorites back then, before I even got into Agatha Christie, because it's just a fun mystery for kids. So, summary time. A bizarre chain of events begins when 16 unlikely people gather for the reading of Samuel W. Westing's will. And though no one knows why the eccentric, game-loving millionaire has chosen a virtual stranger and a possible murderer to inherit his vast fortune, one thing's for sure. Sam Westing may be dead, but that won't stop him from playing one last game. I love this book. The very, very ending of this book is one that will get me every single time I read it, and I love it. It's something that you remember for a very long time after reading it. It's an ending that will stick with you. And our protagonist is a goofy, quirky, headstrong girl, so you can imagine why that would appeal. The very last book on this list is one that I have yet to shut up about to anybody that will listen. It's one that came out very, very recently. It came out, I want to say, like 2 months ago, and I first heard it as an audiobook on Libro.fm, which I am a huge fan of, but you can look at my other posts about that because I don't want to rant about it forever, because I will. But the next book that I'm recommending to you is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I love it. It is very reminiscent of Agatha Christie in that it is a very classic mystery. It's very, very fun. It's a murder mystery as told from the eyes of people who were kind of involved, but were not directly involved. And that's something I like. I like the perspective of an outsider, or almost outsider, as your protagonist. And this is told from the perspective of someone who was involved, but wasn't involved in a way that makes it direct. I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah. So, summary time. Everyone in Fairview knows the story. Pretty and popular high school senior Andy Bell was murdered by her boyfriend, Sal Singh, who then killed himself. It was all anyone could talk about, and 5 years later, Pip sees how the tragedy still haunts her town. But she can't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. She knew Sal when she was a child, and he was always so kind to her. How could he possibly have been a killer? Now a senior herself, Pip decides to re-examine the closed case for her final project. At first just to cast doubt on the original investigation. But soon she discovers a trail of dark secrets that might actually prove Sal innocent. And the line between past and present begins to blur. Someone in Fairview doesn't want Pip digging around for answers, and now her own life might be in danger. This is the story of an investigation turned obsession, full of twists and turns, with an ending you'll never expect. That last bit is very, very true. The ending of this book, I literally was on the edge of my seat listening to this, which was not a good thing because I was driving at the time, so that was a little bit, I may have wanted to wait to listen to the end of this story, but I was on the edge. I could not stop listening to this book. I couldn't put it down. I loved it. And it's told in such an interesting format in that it is told in between interviews and project notes and third-person narration, so you get really all perspectives on the story, so you get all of the information that you need. And it is so much like sitting down with Pip and trying to solve the mystery with her. And it's so fun. Like, all of the characters in the story are incredibly fun, and it's dark, and it's thrilling and it's incredibly good. And I don't know what else to say about it, and there's gonna be a sequel to it soon and I can't wait. I'm so excited about it. So those were my mystery recommendations for the day. If you have any mystery recommendations for me that I might not have read yet, leave them in the description down below. I am incredibly excited to see what you put in terms of what I should read next, because I'm always looking for something new to read, even though my to-read list is like a million miles long at this point, but we're not going to talk about that. I hope you had at least a little bit of fun watching this video, and I hope it gave you something to do when we all need something to do. Leave a like, leave a comment if you want to, and I will see you in the next one. That's all I've got for you today, so yeah, bye!